The world in 1939 was a powder keg waiting for a spark. The Treaty of Versailles left Germany humiliated and economically devastated. The Great Depression fueled resentment and instability. A charismatic and ruthless leader emerged, Adolf Hitler. Hitler's Nazi party promised to restore German pride. Exploiting economic hardship, they quickly gained support. Hitler rebuilt the military, defying the Treaty of Versailles. He annexed Austria and Czechoslovakia, emboldened by Western democracy's weakness. Europe watched with growing apprehension. Imperial Japan pursued its own expansionist ambitions. Japan clashed with China and other powers. The United States viewed Japan's aggression with concern. Tensions escalated, setting the stage for confrontation. The attack on Pearl Harbor would be a turning point in history. December 7th, 1941, a date etched in the annals of history. But in this alternate timeline, the day passes without incident. The Imperial Japanese Navy, poised to strike the United States Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, receives new orders. The attack is called off. The day of infamy never dawns. The decision to abandon the Pearl Harbor attack is a strategic gamble by Japan. They fear that a direct assault on United States soil would galvanize American public opinion against them. Instead, they choose to focus their aggression on European colonies in Southeast Asia, hoping to secure vital resources and avoid a direct confrontation with the United States. Without the catalyst for war, the United States remains officially neutral. President Roosevelt, though sympathetic to the Allied cause, is hamstrung by isolationist sentiment in Congress. Without American intervention, the European theatre of war takes a decidedly different turn. With America focused on its own affairs, the burden of fighting Nazi Germany falls solely on the shoulders of Great Britain and the Soviet Union. The Battle of Britain rages in the skies above England. But without American resources and manpower, the outcome is far from certain. The Royal Air Force fights valiantly, but the Luftwaffe's relentless bombing campaign takes a heavy toll. On the Eastern Front, the Wehrmacht, bolstered by troops and resources that would have been tied down fighting the Americans, makes significant gains. The Red Army, though fighting fiercely, is outmatched in terms of equipment and logistics. The siege of Leningrad drags on, a testament to Soviet resilience, but elsewhere the Germans advance deeper into Soviet territory. Without American pressure in North Africa and Italy, German forces are able to hold on to their gains in those regions. The war in Europe grinds on, a bloody stalemate with no end in sight. Despite the absence of Pearl Harbor, the United States does not remain entirely aloof from the global conflict. Japan's aggression in Southeast Asia, while not directed at the United States, nevertheless threatens American interests in the region. Public opinion, while initially divided, gradually shifts in favor of intervention. President Roosevelt, capitalizing on growing anti-Japanese sentiment, authorizes increased aid to China and imposes economic sanctions on Japan. The United States Navy strengthens its presence in the Pacific, preparing for the possibility of war. Without the necessity of fighting a two-front war, the United States is able to focus its industrial might on countering Japan in the Pacific. American shipyards churn out aircraft carriers and battleships at an astonishing rate. The Pacific War becomes a separate and distinct conflict, one in which the United States emerges as the dominant power. Section 5. The Thousand-Year Reich, a nightmare realized. In Europe, the war rages on, a brutal and protracted struggle. Without American intervention, the Soviet Union eventually succumbs to the combined might of the Wehrmacht and its allies. The Nazi banner flies over Moscow, a chilling symbol of Axis victory. With the Eastern Front secured, Hitler turns his attention to consolidating his grip on Europe. The continent is reorganized into a series of puppet states and German-controlled territories. The Holocaust, already underway, intensifies, claiming the lives of millions of Jews and other minorities. A reign of terror descends upon Europe as the Gestapo and SS ruthlessly crush any sign of dissent. With Europe under their control, Germany gains access to vast resources and industrial capacity. They embark on a program of military expansion, developing advanced weapons and technologies. Section 6. A world-divided Cold War dynamics in an Axis-dominated world. The world that emerges from World War II is a vastly different place. With the Axis powers triumphant, the familiar geopolitical landscape is shattered. The United States, though a major power in the Pacific, is effectively isolated from Europe, its traditional sphere of influence now dominated by Nazi Germany. A new Cold War takes shape, but it is a Cold War with different players and dynamics. On one side stands the United States, its economy booming but its global influence diminished. On the other side stands the Axis powers, led by a triumphant but increasingly paranoid Nazi Germany. The Cold War in this alternate timeline is characterized by a constant state of tension and proxy conflicts. The threat of nuclear war hangs over the world, a chilling reminder of the stakes involved. Section 7. The shape of things to come. Technology and culture in an alternate timeline. Without American involvement in World War II, technology and culture develop differently. Technological advancements like the atomic bomb occur much later or not at all. The space race never materializes. The world is more divided and ideologically polarized. The Nazi regime imposes its worldview through media and education. War and oppression influence the themes and styles in the arts. Section 8. Hope endures resistance and the possibility of liberation. Despite the triumph of the Axis powers, hope endures. Across Europe, resistance movements operate in the shadows, fighting for liberation from Nazi tyranny. These movements, though often small and fragmented, represent a flickering flame of defiance in a world shrouded in darkness. The resistance takes many forms, from armed uprisings to acts of sabotage and civil disobedience. Individuals from all walks of life, united by their opposition to Nazi rule, risk their lives to undermine the regime from within. The possibility of liberation, though distant, remains a beacon of hope for those living under Nazi oppression. The struggle against tyranny is a long and arduous one, but the human spirit, with its capacity for courage and resilience, offers a glimmer of hope in even the darkest of times.